9 and also frequencies across Liberia. 8 o'clock in Monrovia. Our studio guest is already here. Mr. Samuel Jackson, how you doing, Chief?
Yeah, good morning, Sorbor.
Long time no see.
I've been busy traveling to London, went to my graduation in the London School of Economics, and then I went to New York. Then I got family in Atlanta. I went to Atlanta, and then I had some work to do in the Washington D.C., Virginia area. Did that, and I've been home now about 6 weeks, so settled nicely, at home and looking forward for the center of the ball for 2023.
I know. It's home for good or what?
Huh?
Are you home for good?
Well, the thing is, I'll be spending a lot of time over the next 12 months,
Okay.
where we are just about 12 months to the election. So I would like to play a critical role in the re-election efforts of our president.
Critical role.
Yeah, I'd like to play a critical role. I've already been named as chief strategist in economic and social issues on the announcement that will be made December 17th for the president's re-election. He'll be announcing his decision.
So you've been named already.
Yeah, by the party, the CDC Chairman Marlowe named me as chief strategist for economic and social issues. And I'm looking forward to center the ball. And
Wow.
let us debate with with our adversaries what they have done in the past for this country and what they propose to do. What new do they have? Apparently, I don't see anything new. And we'll be talking, of course, about the Cummings team. Old wine in new bottle.
We're talking about
In
that.
fact-
Don't go too
In
far.
fact, contaminated wine in new bottle.
In new bottle. Okay,
In
we'll
new
talk
bottle,
about that.
you know.
We'll talk about that. Now, but you've been traveling around, and besides, you one person who's very conversant. You're quite aware of global issues. Let me give you the credit for that. You read a lot and you travel. When you came back, I'm sure you heard about the noise regarding rise and rise and rise. What's your take, especially from what you've read and you've heard globally?
Okay. Look, first of all, let's just be very clear. There is a rice shortage in the country, but it's not an acute shortage. Okay, it's a shortage. It's a glitch in the supply chain with respect to the importers and the subsidies, but that issue has been mostly resolved. In the next 24 to 48 hours, there'll be a ship berthing. And of course, you can see that the pressures from like last week, Monday, have been greatly reduced with the minister going out there, going out to warehouses and forcing people who are hoarding the commodity. That, of course, some people are profiteering under the increase in the price of the 25 kg bag, okay, and also increase in the price of the cup of rice. I have a lot of sympathy for what happened for my people. It shouldn't have happened. It happened, but I can assure them that I've been given critical information that they're doing everything to make sure that there are ample supplies of rice. And there's a ship here within the next 24, 48 hours, and by the end of this month, there will be enough rice in the country to last through next year with some buffer stocks that I've been reasonably assured by the authorities involved.
You spoke an economic term, and let's pick up from that point. You said there's shortage, but it's not an acute shortage. What do you mean?
Well, an acute shortage would mean there will be bordering on almost starvation, where people will not be able to even get the rice to eat. Okay, and people will start, scrambling, and then you're looking at some kind of social dysfunctional issues creeping within the society. But I know for a fact that on Monday, you saw the long lines at Fawani Brothers, for example, because they were the only one that had rice.
Surely.
And you saw the people climbing over the fence, right? Okay. And that was because the ship that is berthed at the Freeport Monrovia, because of the heavy rains in the last week in September, or in the early or first week in October, they were not able to unpack those rice and put them into the warehouse. So they were not selling more than 20 bags to an individual.
Okay.
But by Thursday, they started to sell more than 20 bags to individuals. And then you saw one of your other colleagues went there from another station and showed this huge consignment of rice that is at the port. And of course, I don't know if you saw my video. I did a video where I went there and I interview women who have been there for 2, 3, 4, 5 days without being served because these are rice dealers, right? But when I spoke back to them again on Thursday, they told me that they had gotten their tickets and they were going to be getting 50 or 100 bags. So that means that they're taking it to their communities to start distribution, rice retail distribution, right?
Okay.
So it means that that glitch, that temporary glitch, which happened, which made people who have rice to start to hoard them and start to ration them, and that impacted the distribution and retail of that rice. Okay, that problem appears to be sufficiently solved. There is rice on the market. You can go down to any market, you will see people selling rice in cups. Most people in this town, and most people in the country, they don't buy bags of rice because of mass poverty. Right? People buy rice by cup. I even buy rice by cup. The reason why I buy rice by cup is because I'm the only.
But you're not a poor man.
No. I'm the only person in my house who eats rice. My fiance doesn't eat rice.
Okay.
So it doesn't make any sense for me to buy a bag of
The
rice.
kids too, they don't have eat.
I don't have any kids. All my kids are,
Okay.
I'm what they call.
They are all overseas.
Yeah. No. I don't have any kids. I mean, they're all. Everybody is grown. You know. Yeah. My youngest from my marriage is she's 25 years old. You know. Yeah. So So I don't have any kids. Okay. And my fiance and I we live in the Cinco Bell, and she eats the South African food, which is mostly the cornmeal and the starch and something called chakalaka. And I eat my.
So you buy a cup of rice to eat.
We buy like five to 7 cups of rice at a time.
Okay.
by my cook. Yeah, and that's. But I don't eat the expensive Uncle Ben's rice and all of that.
Which one do you eat?
I eat the regular rice that people buy in the market.
Okay. We'll talk about, because you made mention to the minister of commerce, going out to meet with some of the importers and see what was happening.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that, but I want you to give us an idea, Mr. Sam Jackson. There's this whole perception by some politicians that this whole rest issue was triggered, was originated, was caused by the government of Liberia. Give us an idea.
Okay, there is some truth to that. I mean, I'm not going to come here and lie to you and say the glitches in the subsidy payments to importers did not, cause this temporary glitch, right? So there was, and a lot of the importers did not import rice because they felt that some degree of subsidy had not been paid. So So that one we have to look into. But I'm clear now that issue has been resolved, and they made a disbursement of almost $4 million to some importers this week. Okay, and
$4 million.
Yeah, $4 million. Look, I haven't really did an analysis on the initial appropriation. Okay, but one of the things that we have to discuss going further, whether it is even economically advisable for the government of Liberia to even subsidize rice. Okay, because it's not sustainable. It's not. Let's just be very clear about that. It is not sustainable. But sometimes governments take actions that are political in nature because they want to gain political capital, all of that. And I think this is one of those things. And I don't think we thought about the long-term consequences of that. And it's a good faith effort by the government, okay, but
to subsidize
to subsidize rice.
But you're trying to confuse your listeners here and confuse me as well. You say it's it's good on the part of the government.
I say it's a good. Listen to me. When I come to speak as a supporter,
because at one point you say it's advisable as well.
No, hold on a second.
Okay.
When I come to speak, okay, as a supporter of the government, one thing I'm not going to do is to lie. Okay, I will tell you as an economist.
You're a propagandist as well.
Yeah, I am a propagandist and I'm a surrogate, but I'm not a Pollyanna. A Pollyanna is somebody who sees
reality.
Everything is glory. Nobody's hungry in the country. There's the streets are paved with gold. I'm not that kind of a surrogate. I'm not that kind of one. So I'm saying the idea of subsidy, okay, from my point of view as an economist, okay, I don't see that as sustainable.
Okay.
Okay, I will advise.
So it's not advisable.
Okay, I will advise the government to stop the subsidy. Okay, what they should do is to do as much to open the rice market to competition, so as to have more importers, more variety of rice, and let supply and demand, okay, produce an equilibrium price. That's what I would like to see. Now, but that is as an economist, a technical economist. Now, the politician may have some other ideas in terms based upon the reality in the country and the specific socioeconomic conditions out there, like the fact that 70% of the people in this town, for example, live in slums and they are poor, right? So maybe the subsidy is a tool for social protection
Okay.
of some sort. Yes, this you can make those kind of arguments, but I'm saying from the technical point of view, I don't see that subsidizing rice to the tune of tens of millions of dollars on a yearly basis is, to me, inexpedient, and it may be politically expedient, but it's not a sustainable. It's not.
So in other words, you're saying economically it's not expedient.
It's not.
Now,
it is expedient politically, but economically it is not sustainable. Okay.
Now, what's the danger in that? If you are saying that economically it's not sustainable, what's the danger?
Because the danger is that there are competing priorities the government has. The government has to make payroll. The government has to run the country. The government has to support its budget, domestic resource mobilization. So that quantum of money, which is now about $700 million, we have priorities within those things. We have health, we have education, we have other things to do with that money, right? So we take that money and we subsidize rice, and we do that continuously, right? What we're doing is, don't forget, the subsidy that we're putting on this rice is $2. It's not staying within the country. It's leaving the country. That's one thing you have to understand.
Okay.
So the government is also contributing the imbalance of payment, okay? Because you have more monies going out than staying. So it would make sense to me as an economist to take that subsidy money there and maybe to put it into some specific action program towards agriculture, towards education, or toward health, and let the market. Because I tell you what, when you have a number of suppliers of rice on the market, importers of rice, you open the market, right? Then you open that to competition, and then the equilibrium price will depend upon the demand in the marketplace.
Okay.
That's what I will advise the government. But the government, look, we have a democratic.
Will it also help to reduce the price?
It could if you bring more rice into the country and you bring different variety of rice, and then you also do other things to teach people the different forms of starches for them to consume. Because Liberia, in terms of our per capita consumption of rice, is the highest in the region. Other countries in the region, they do what? They eat cassava, they eat plantain, they eat eba, they eat all kinds of everything. But Liberia, as you know, since Firestone came to this country, has all this Pusawa business, this foreign rice has consumed this. What did our people eat before Firestone came to this country? We grew our own rice. Now, we don't have the competitive and comparative economic advantage to produce rice, the same quality of rice that we import, to produce it here and sell it for a reasonable price, for lots of reasons, right? The soil, and you can talk to agronomists. If agronomists are listening to this program, that in call. Because we have a special kind of agriculture in this country, slash and burn, where people plant here one day, then they move here the other day. So this whole thing about rice production has to be integrated into an agribusiness plan for Liberia. Because agriculture is not just about planting and harvesting. Agriculture is about financing agriculture, and providing bank credits, because farmers need to be financed. For example, only 4% of the total loans in this country go to agriculture.
Only 4%.
Only 4%. We need to do more of that. But the irony is that 60% of the workforce in this country is involved in agriculture, right? And then our arable land, we have a great degree of arable land. So that's why I fault the old administration, okay? We had the Liberian Agricultural Sector Investment Plan. That plan was funded to the tune of $200 million by USAID Does this country look like $200 million was put into agriculture? And the whole quantum of aid that came to this country over 12 years was $17 billion in aid. $250 million yearly aggregate demand because of the unmade presence in this country. So if people say, but why you always refer to the past? Because let me tell you something. Building a nation is like creating a home.
Okay.
Anybody can build a house.
Surely.
But it takes special people to build a home. Like everybody can run a country, but it takes a certain kind of people to build a nation that is based upon sustainability, based upon social equity. And unfortunately, there has not been any social equity from the previous administration, 12 years, because they could have made things easier for this administration if they had done some things right. Power, electricity in this country, they spent $1 billion. And what did they produce? 88 megawatts? 257 million, Millennium Challenge Corporation, $100 million from the Norwegians, and then the EU and the Japanese in the transmissions and distribution, about $1 billion. And don't take my word for it. There's a report by Mathematica. That report clearly says that the money was mostly squandered. And I didn't even use the word, even Joseph Boyka, who was the standard bearer of the Unity Party, said they squandered opportunities. And that was one of the opportunities they squandered.
So you are borrowing from him now?
Yeah, no, of course. But those are his words. So if you look at the fact that they didn't give us sustainable electricity, they squandered the opportunities for agriculture, right? So the quantum of money that we are spending every year on rice importation, $250 million leaving this country every year. Joseph Boyka and his team at the ADA lab, they got $30 million from the Libyans. What happened to the equipment? If you go to FOIA, the machines are cannibalized sitting out there. So why do you blame the opposition? Well, of course, we have fired, but the first 2 years of this administration was dealing with the lagging effects of the dissonance and the policy incoherence from the previous administration, including the printing of the $16 billion and the high inflation, okay? And 70% of the wage bill went to what? 70% of the expenditure of the budget went to the public sector wage bill. So if you look at the public sector wage to GDP, okay, anomaly. Okay, so this is what is inherited. So you saw the shocks of 2018, 2019. People are going to the street and demonstrating. Okay, they had to do all these things like to harmonize, to bring macro stability to the country. So macro stability means that we reduce inflation, right? Make inflation at single digits. Then, of course, the devaluation of our currency. You saw that. It was rough in 2018, 2019, right? So that is because of the printing, illogical printing of this large amount of money. So we have a great degree of macro stability now. You remember we had illiquidity within the banking system?
Yeah, surely.
Where you couldn't go and get money.
From the banks, yeah.
From the banks. But now I use my debit card, Wells Fargo, I can go get money. So that macro stability that we have, it's not translating fast into improving socioeconomic outcomes and reducing poverty.
Why?
Why? Because of the structure of our economy. We are a narrow-based economy where we depend upon two commodity export, iron ore and rubber, who are subjected to the vigorous of the international trading system, where the prices go up, the prices come down, and the demand goes up, the demands come down. Okay, so what we need to do is to do internal dynamics to improve the lives of our people, but that takes time.
You spoke about the previous administration, and you made reference to monies that were pumped into the country, into the economy for agricultural purposes and all of that, but you can see the dividends of that. So are you saying that some of the difficulties or some of the challenges being faced by this administration is as a result of the poor governance by the previous?
A significant source of our problem comes from, look, if you get 12 years in power, if you don't build sustainable systems, for another elected government to come and build upon, So what we have to reach like is undo all the bad things that you did, all the bad things, your currency, your currency situation where you printed, without regard to the quantitative theory of money, printed $16 billion, and anybody who's economists out there will understand the quantitative theory of money is very simple. That the growth in the money supply, which is the broad money, okay, should not exceed the quantity of money put into there. So there should be almost proportional. Something in economics, and of course the other people, the technical people, they call PSC coefficient is almost 1-to-1. For this kind of a linear economy, right, where there's a limited amount of, in terms of the financial inclusion, where we have a huge informality, right? So you got to be very, very careful, especially if it's an import-based economy where you're using, you're bringing in $1.2 billion worth of imports, right? So that import there has to be what? Financed by your meager foreign exchange. Okay, your foreign exchange, right? So, and then they didn't even have the what do you call it? The number of months of input cover in the reserve. They came down to almost like 2 months. But now we have 4.2 months in input cover in our foreign exchange reserve. So all of those things that they did irrationally. Look, Sorbor George, they did not build a system to collect real estate taxes. When oil mill was here, the entire UN system was here, all these people were collecting these tens of millions of dollars every year in rent. They're not paying real estate taxes. Only 5% of property owners paying real estate taxes. And where do the monies go that they get in real estate that were being paid by these buildings in Shingo, Mama Point, downtown, all those Shingo, Congo Town, all the places? The people don't live here. They live abroad, the people that own this land. Most of them don't live here. And that money was repatriated to Washington, D.C., Virginia, Maryland area. That money went out. So if you look at the last year of the administration, you saw a significant amount of money in terms of current account, money going out. Okay? Huge current account deficit. Because we have more monies going out because they were in a hurry. Because they had looted the country, and they were in a hurry to take that money out of Liberia. That's what they did. That's when you saw the banks dried up. And look at the composition of the cabinet of the previous administration. How many cabinet members are left living in Liberia and their children? Tell me, Sorbor George. How many? Tell me. How many of them are stay here? The people who ran that government, how many of them are stay here?
12 years.
For 12 years. How many of them are here and how many of the children are left in this country? That's what you fleece the country. You loot the country and then you run. And you expect...
But the former president is still in the country, and the vice president, the former vice president.
Yeah, but I'm saying the cabinet.
Okay.
The cabinet. That's what I'm talking
Well,
about.
one who ask, why is Sam Jackson and so critical of the previous regime?
Because I know the numbers, Sorbor George. The OECD countries pour in $17 billion in this country in terms of official development assistance to this country. Does this country look like a country where somebody pumped in $17 billion? You didn't even reduce poverty substantially by policy actions. Poverty reduced. You know why poverty reduced? Because of something we call the automaticity of economic growth. Okay. After the war, when the new government came into power, what happened? People started to return home. The schools started to open. People started to send their children to school. That's why primary enrollment rose. That's why junior high enrollment rose. High school enrollment rose, right? Because people were returning to school. So they would tell you, we had that many people that were in school, but so many people came. But they're right. But their policies didn't do that. They put out something called the Education Sector Plan. It was operational from 2010 to 2020.
It collapsed.
But didn't she say education is messy? Those are her own words, right? Didn't she say that she was responsible for the cannibalization of NorCal? She takes full responsibility. Didn't she say that? These are not my words. And the figures, okay? When you zap $250 million of aggregate demand out of the economy, when all mill left and UN related activities left, that's the hole that this government inherited. That's the hole the government inherited, okay? So let's now look at macro stability that has come because of policies that have been put into place. We are in the extended credit facility program of the IMF, right? Look at the recent Article 4 consultation report. It says that growth, 3.7% growth rate. This is the first significant growth rate since Ebola, 3.7%. And it was projected to 5%, but because of what the war in Ukraine and the lingering effects of COVID, but that is a very respectable economic growth, 3.7%.
Okay.
And then in 2024, per capita GDP will come back to pre-war levels.
In 2024.
In 2024, next year. In 2024, next year, will pre-war. And then nominal GDP, which is the value of all goods and services produced in this country, will go to about $5 billion in the next several years. So there is growth, economic growth, but that the challenge for this economy has always been how to translate that growth into development.
Okay.
And the obstruction is there, what? The structural defects, huge youth unemployment, because we did not invest enough money in human capital. Liberia has one of the lowest human capital index in the world because they did not invest in education. But guess what? Last year, the recent report of the United Nations Development Report on the Human Development Index, Liberia is one of only 10% of the countries on the planet who saw a significant improvement, okay? Modest or significant, whatever you call it, in the Human Development Index. Liberia's life expectancy, Sorbor George, is higher than La Cote d'Ivoire, higher than Guinea, and higher than Sierra Leone. We have the highest life expectancy in the Mana River Union at 60.3, according to the UN, and with the World Bank data, 64 years. The highest. So there's degree of progress being made. Okay, but those are policy dissonance and policy coherence and lack of real economic foundation for 12 years of the previous administration, okay, set us back tremendously. So we bring it back macro stability, but that macro stability is not translating fast into income for a lot of the poor people in this country, and a significant number of people in this country still live below the poverty line. But that is fixed over a period of time.
You're listening to the Super Morning Show, rated on the OBC 99.9 and other frequencies across Liberia. Our studio guest here is one of Liberia's seasoned economists, Samuel Jackson. He's here trying to give us some analysis on some of the economic issues and issues also that happen, things that happen in the past administration that's today affecting the current administration. Now, you saw the names, in fact, that came up from the
Comics team.
campaign of the ANC political leader Cummings, Alexander Cummings. And I'm sure you went through the list. You saw a couple of individuals that you're quite aware of as well.
Couple.
What's your take?
That's a reincarnation of Ellen Sharif government.
Reincarnation?
Of course, absolutely.
What will you say that?
Okay, let me just give you some names of that list. I'm just rattling, and I'm not even looking at it. I'm not looking at a piece of paper. Talk about McIntosh, foreign minister, right? And former minister of planning for Ellen. Louis Brown, minister of information for Ellen. Okay. Pinky Duncan Cassay, gender minister for Ellen. What's her name? Dan Marias. He was working for the Ellen government, right? Then you talk
Daniel Chia.
Daniel Chia. No, Daniel Chia not working at the MPP. Okay. You look at Nikki Ja, transport, right? And then those other names, a little bit on names, they were all supporters of Ellen. So this is Ellen 2.0.
2.0?
Yeah, Ellen 2.0. This is an attempt for the reincarnation for Ellen's third term. So Ellen Sirleaf and Alice Cummings appear to be Siamese twins, born from the same womb. So the same things that happened under the Ellen administration, the cannibalization of NorCal, the things that they did, 66 out of 68 concession
But
agreements.
Cummings is pushing for change, for which he came up with the names of people. He think that will help him to bring up the change.
Okay, so let's look at that list. Okay, and they will say that, well, this is just a campaign team, but a campaign team should have managers. First of all, they didn't even name the positions that these people held. They just listed 44 people. How can you list just a team without the head, without the finance president, without the operational president, without a structure? If Alice Cummings was working at Coca-Cola and they told him to do a reorganization, restructure of Coca-Cola, and he gave 20 names and he did not give them position, so we're all going to manage Coca-Cola as a team? You don't do that. Every organization, you need a leadership structure, you need a hierarchical structure, you need clear lines of responsibility, you need clear lines of functions. This team doesn't have it. It's just a mismatch of, for lack of a better word, political hacks and operatives that want to come back to power. And that's all. That's all it is.
Now, but let's look at individually. First, the former ambassador, McIntosh. You follow his performance, his activities, and men of that nature. Johnny Cummings isn't something to worry about.
I'm not worried about it. Look, let's just be very clear here. Mr. Toga is a very good guy, right? He's a decent man, but he's been credibly accused of granting Liberian diplomatic passport to a fake journalist for monies. He hasn't cleared himself that in public opinion yet, or hasn't provided sufficient explanation to deal with that. So that's something hanging out there, okay? And the other man, look, Louis Brown's my cousin, decent man, good man, but I don't know what Louis can bring to the table in terms of a new direction for the country. Look,
why you don't know that?
Because they were there before. They had 12 years. Look, it's like you've been married to your wife for 20 years. You don't build house. Your children getting to go to college now to leave the house. Then you say you come to build up, but then you go build a little hut, So what you didn't do when the rain was falling, you didn't do it when the dew coming. So this team here, unfortunately, is not a team, it's not a credible team for change. They may have some decent people on there, but look at Judy Wisner. Do you think Judy Wisner can motivate any real policy objectives to bring in foreign direct investment to this country, when most of the foreign direct investment that came on early was mostly in the extractive industry? They did not increase the bandwidth of the economy. The composition of GDP is a very narrow base. The leftover was mostly an extractive economy, right? They left low human capital. They left a messy educational system. They left a difficult distribution and transmission system for electricity, where they built a faulty dam. And you tell me that these people can do something new? They cannot. They're totally incapable. So this whole mantra of change that Cummings was talking about, and Sorbor, let your people call. I hope you can let your listeners then call.
I'll open the lines.
Yes, let him respond to what I'm saying. Because I don't want to be like I'm lying on them. At least the mantra of change must be based upon the foundation of change agents. Cummings' team does not have any change agent on that. Therefore,
So you would have rather that Cummings maybe find new people who have been worked in government before. Is that what you wanted?
but not only people, but people who have demonstrated more efficiency in running something. Okay, and these are my friends.
But what's about Julia Donkey Cassell? She was then the minister of gender. Then you see.
Okay, let's look at gender parity under her. Okay, the gender parity and other issues of female improve under Julia Duncan Cassell, right? 30% of girls between the ages of 13 and 19 born children in this country. 30%. That's 1 out of every 3 girls born children. And if you look at the gender parity in high school, okay, for every 10 boys that are in high school, there are only 7 girls. You know why? Because the girls get pregnant. What does it do? What did gender do about gender parity? Nothing. See, gender is a cross-cutting issue, but in the improvement of the lives of women, okay, female genital mutilation, all of those things that
the rape, all of
yeah, but it's just sexually
gender-based violence,
all of that.
But it on the increase during administration.
Absolutely, and they always said they didn't even have. And then, it's so funny that one time Ellen had to be corrected by her Minister of Justice about prostitution not being legal in Liberia. You remember that episode, right? But what is that national social welfare policy? The zogonification of the country. What did they build a rehabilitation center to take those zogos off the streets? The zogos that have been living in the streets now for dozens of years, acting to the dysfunction in our society. What did they do about that? These are the questions you should be asking. So who on that committee there will be responsible for a national social welfare policy for Cummings? And the articulation of a party does not wait for a platform. You must identify a party with a specific policy objective. What does Cummings hope to achieve? Or what do the government honor Cummings? What does it hope to achieve? What is its number 1 priority? Have they told you that? You tell me. You're a journalist. Do you hear? What does Cummings identify with? He was, the mantra Mr. Clean Hands, right? But does this committee or that he put together, this team, is it a reflection of somebody who is coming to upset the apple cart and make dramatic change in this society? Or it's the same thing, contaminated wine in new bottles, unfortunately.
Now, you seem, very critical of the team,
not just of the team, but
put together
no. Look, what I'm critical about is that they don't have any clear idea where they want to take this country. They haven't articulated that sufficiently for me to see. I haven't seen that articulation by Mr. Cummings or any one of his surrogates. All they do, when I go on a program, they attack me. Oh, you are, when they say any government in power. But the thing is, I only worked 3.5 years out of my whole 44 years of experience in my life in government. And the whole time of Ellen, I did not work in the government. I was a consultant, paid by the national system. But I only worked 3.5 years, almost 70 years old. And I have a work history of 44 years and only 3 years in government. And I'm very proud of what I did when I worked for government. Okay? We brought about this transition in 2003, the Accra Comprehensive Peace Agreement. And when I was deputy minister, I put into place a program for a large degree of rice suppliers. And I also put together the price marketing analysis model where to make sure that we monitor the prices of commodities. So I'm very proud of what I did. Okay, but that's my history.
Maybe you wanted to form part of that team put together by Cummings, apparently. Maybe that was your intention and your interest.
So let me ask you a question. I just went to the top econ school on the planet. And my objective would be to be a part of a camp now than ever before, because what I did was I Well, I updated my education.
When were you contacted by the Cummings team?
Oh, Cummings and I had a conversation going about a year and a half ago, and at the appropriate time, I'll show you my emails. I wanted him to start building a real team for national reconstruction going forward, but he's not interested in that.
You made some proposals to him?
Oh, yeah, of course. I talked to him on a regular. I talked for a period of about a year. We had this constant back and forth, okay? And I kept telling him what he needed to do way in advance. But I quickly found out that we didn't have the same agenda. It's called a different agenda. What he did was he formed a collab. He joined the CPP, okay, of people that his own Secretary General called economic and war criminals. You saw that. You saw what it culminated into. He sat on the prisoner bench. There were allegations, some credible, about falsification of the framework document. So imagine that if I were part of that, so I would have to take sides now, okay, between my friends Benana Yuri, Yomli Kanga, and Cummings, and then going to court every day. That's not a valuable use of my time. And thank God I made a decision way, way early, because if it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it must be a duck. And I knew they were not going to go anywhere.
Now, let me ask you, do you see, you sound very interesting, do you see a Cummings presidency in the shortest possible time, or way in the future?
No. Cummings doesn't have a chance of being president of this country for the following reasons. Decent man, did a lot of good for himself, okay? Rose up, spectacular rise in corporate America. But one thing I see blind ambition. You know what they call Abu Kiri? Very Abu for the presidency. Cummings came here 2016. That's 6 years ago. If he had run for like a representative position or senatorial position and made a name for himself in terms of the articulation of clear policies and build a team, and then he'd be the fulcrum of that team, like how Ellen did it and how George did it. But he didn't have the political capital, and he came to collaborate with people that were on the ground. People largely contaminated, and they contaminated him, right? So now, Cummings is